अस्मद्गुरुभ्यो नमः अस्मत्परमगुरुभ्यो नमः अस्मत्सर्वगुरुभ्यो नमः श्री कृष्ण परब्रह्मणे नमः श्री लक्ष्मी सिंह परब्रह्मणे नमः श्रीमते श्री लक्ष्मी सिंह परब्रह्मणे नमः श्री लक्ष्मी हायदना परब्रह्मणे नमः सर्वं श्री कृष्ण.
Can you make it bigger?
This one, this is the max. And
oh, you're maxed. That means I have to do something here, but I'm not sure what.
I'm showing my screen.
I'm getting the full screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
hold on.
it's possible to do full screen, I think.
Let's see if I do stand. Okay. I had to change my view to standard. Okay.
Okay. All right. See, I was studying this Dharma Dharmi Bhava Samarthanam, what we are trying to do here. Dharma Dharmi Bhava Samarthanam, right? This becomes very complicated. I read through the whole thing and it becomes very technical in terms of very Shastra oriented, more like Tarka oriented. It's not easily consumable by by non-Tarka students and stuff like that. The way to deal with it is simplify the problem. If you simplify the problem, it's easy to understand. So what I'm going to do is use a simple method to explain the next two shlokas, because these are the only two shlokas, which is 9, which talks about the dharma and the dharmi bhava, and the 10th one, which talks about adhara and adheya bhava. These two are quite complicated concepts, but it will all become easy once you go into real, why is it important? Dharma, dharmi bhava means it is substance and attribute relationship. Adhara, adheya bhava is, adhara is support. And adheya is the vastu which is supported, that is the object which is supported. So if a pot exists on the ground is adhara and the pot is adheya. Similarly, dharma, dharmi means if there is a blue pot or a black pot, the pot is pot is substance and the blueness or the blackness is attribute. So what the whole thing about this Dharma Dharmi Bhava is about a traditional problem, long time back. This existed since the time of Buddha. The question of whether such a relationship exists or not, that is, substance and attribute relationship, substance being different from the attribute, should we accept it or not? This is the fundamental problem everyone is trying to understand. From the Buddhists, and from the Buddhists, there are so many schools of Buddhism. And after Buddhism, it came the Advaita. So here, each Advaita has a slightly different view, as I told you earlier, that dharmi exists. Dharmi is the substance which exists. The dharmas don't exist in the sense that dharmas are only apparent, they are not real. In the Bauddha system, there are different views about it, but one of the views which are important is a Madhyamika view, where dharmi, that is a substance, and attribute, both are non-existing in a way. They don't exist. That means they are all shunya in the sense that you cannot talk about it in some ways. The shunya is there is no value in any of these things. Dharma or dharmi has no intrinsic value because it depends on something else, and because of that depends on something else, that depends on something else. So the thing is, there is no unique intrinsic value in any of these. That's how the Buddhists look at. So now, if the summary of this particular verse, dharmo nirdharma kaschet katham iva bhavita sobhilapadi yogya dharmena anyena yogecha sabhavati tatha ityava avyavastheti chenna Kaschid dharmopi dharmi sputamati mathane swanya nirvahakah katvam tannishkarsha prayogeshvapi bhavati punaha tasya dharmi visheshaha. Here, just a simple example. Dharmo nirdharma kaschet kathamiva bhavita. Suppose dharma does not have, dharma is nirdharmaka. Nirdharmaka is attributeless. So if you say this animal is a cow, and the cowness is what defines the animal. So animal is the dharmi, and cowness is the attribute of that animal. If animal is nirdharmaka, that there is no attribute to the animal, how do you represent it? You have to say something about it. Oh, this is a cow, or this is a dog, or this is a bison. So abhilapadi yogya. Abhilapa means how to communicate about it. Vyavahara. You cannot indicate. Dharmena anyena. So dharmi, if it is, there is no dharma in it, there is no attribute. Dharmo nirdharma kaschet. So here dharma itself is like cowness. Cowness, if it does, is cowness dharma with dharma or without dharma? So if it is without dharma, you cannot even talk about it. Dharmena anyena yoge sacha bhavati tatha ityavyavasteti chenna. So suppose you say cowness is sadharmaka, that means it has attributes. Oh, then cownessness will need another attribute, cownessness, and cownessness will need another attribute, cownessness. This becomes stupid, and there is ad infinitum that goes into a cycle, and that is avyavastha, which is not acceptable. So that is also not there. We don't need this get into avyavastha at all. Why? A simple way is Kaschid dharmopi dharmi sputamati mathane swa anya nirvahakatvam. That means if there is the cowness separates itself from any other object, including other animals. So dharmi is the cow itself, that is the vyakti. Vyakti is the individual. So cowness is gotva. Gotva is the jati vachaka. Jati vachaka is the class of cows or the category of cows. So the thing is, kaschit dharmopi dharmi, the cowness or gotva is a dharma, and it's also a dharmi. Sputamati mathane swanya nirvahakatvam. That means the gotva jati can separate itself from any other object, and gotva jati is the attribute of gotva jati can also be the dharmi. Dharmi means the real vyakti, or that is the individual. The individual cow is an attribute to gotva also. It is each other. One is attribute of the other. So you don't need the third one. That is gotvatva or gotvatvatvatva. All these things are not necessary. That is because it's swa anya nirvahakatvam. One separates itself and defines itself completely. So you don't need some attribute to cow, gotva and gotvatva. You don't need any other attribute. Tannishkarsha prayogeshvapi bhavati punaha kasya dharmi vishesha. So the thing is, dharmi also becomes vishesha. That dharmi is a particular cow. The moment you say a particular cow, then because it has some characteristics of other goats, you say that this belongs to the class of cows. What I see is a cow, and it is not a bison, or it is not an ox. It is not a cat or a dog, but it is a cow. Because you see the attribute of cow there. But when you refer to an attribute of cow, cowness is not definable. You don't know what a cowness is. How do you define a cowness? You define cowness based on an individual in that class. Oh, I saw a cow. Oh, this has cowness. So each one will define each other. So there is no need for assuming multiple attributes such as cownness. All these things are unnecessary. This is a simple meaning of this verse. And I looked at it several times, this whole particular details. Anything extra is almost like, not necessary at this point. Why is it not necessary? It becomes important when we talk about Jivatma, Paramatma, whether it is Nirdharmaka, Sadharmaka, is Jiva, Brahman, Nirguna, or Saguna. In those areas, this will become very useful. We will come back to this when we get to the right example where Dharma, Dharmi, Bhava becomes important. Here in the example of a cow, horse, this is like, basics. Everybody will know what exactly it is. It's not difficult. But long time back, during the times of Buddhism and even recently because of Advaita, Dharma, Dharmi, Bhava was very important. In Advaita, what they view is Dharma is not there. Only Dharmi is there. That is, the object is there. All dharmas are illusory, superimposed by our minds. So when you look at any object, say you see your cell phone, for example. You look at the cell phone, what the Buddhists and the Advaitis are saying, the very first moment, you don't see the real dharmas or the attributes. You only see the object which does not have any kind of dharmas like color, shape, size, anything like that. There is the first moment you see only a nirdharmaka, that is a true object which has no attributes. And then only the attributes are superimposed by our minds, projected from our mind. This is what they say. This is not acceptable to Sri Vedanta Deshika, that is from the Vishishtadvaita perspective. They say that even at the very first moment, the very fact that you're recognizing that object to be different from something around the object, that is, you look at the object and you see the shape, and then only you know that, oh, this is a cell phone. It is definitely possible that, if I show something very similar to a cell phone, like a mock cell phone and a real cell phone, you may eventually interact with the cell phone and figure out, oh, this is a mock. This looks like a cell phone, but it's not a cell phone. It doesn't work. And a real cell phone, you will figure out, oh, this is a real cell phone, only after later analysis. So that is not an illusory superimposition, but you interact with an object and see the true nature of the object. Just like if suppose it's a little semi-dark and you're looking and something looks like a human being, but when you come very close, you see that there's just a tree with 2 or 3 branches, which gives you the impression that this tree looks like a human being from very far. But really, when you come close, it is just a tree. So it doesn't, in the very first moment when that tree was seen from a distance, that too in a semi-dark lighting condition, it is just that you are unable to understand details of the entity, and because of similarity, you assume that that could be a human being. It is not that a human, our mind is superimposing or projecting the view of a human being there. It's just that the mind is unable to differentiate between that object and truly what it could be mistaken for. Hope it is clear. Is this clear? Any questions on Dharma Dharmi Bhava? I hope you're hearing.
This is Prashant here. So, with respect to dharma dharmi bhava, why is Advaita and Buddhistic view exactly opposite to each other? That was my.
See, it's a very fundamental philosophical concept. Okay, Buddhism came from the idea. I think I told you earlier. This one I will let you. It's no big deal. We will repeat it. Buddhism came from the idea that we cling for objects, and that is the cause of that is desire, right? We desire for objects is causing our problem because we get affected, we get attached to objects. Because we get attached to objects, somebody if if the objects go bad or the objects are lost, we feel bad. When we so it causes pain, sorrow. So you have to take all this away from our lives. How do you do it? The very fact that there is something constant, like a Jivatma or a Paramatma, something that is causing problems to you. You take that out, Nityatva, the assumption of eternality. You take it out. So even Jivatma or the self is not Nitya for them. Why? If you assume it is Nitya, that causes the illusion of I and mineness. Oh, this belongs to me. I am this. I am poor. I am rich. I am from a very great family. All this pride and everything comes to you, and it totally will destroy you. It's all illusory. So what Buddhism said was, you have to deny anything which is permanent. It is known as anatta. Anatta means anatmavada. There is no real eternal thing. If you assume that, you will lose all attachments to everything, including yourself. Then you will be a very happy person. You will get nirvana. That was their whole view. So they wanted to deny objects. But attributes they could not deny, because we always find the problem of, something is hot or cold. Our experiences seems to be real. I perceive a wonderful scenery. I see a beautiful ocean in front of me. So all this kind of experience, which are phenomena, is non-deniable. That is why they did not deny attributes. Do you understand Buddhism now very clearly?
Yeah. Yes.
I have a question to Ramaya. I don't know whether I can express myself properly. You say dharmi is the object and dharma is illusory. Okay, am I right? In that case, if
What system?
dharma is illusory, there is pardon?
Are you talking about Buddhism or what? Let us.
No, I'm talking about Advaitic view, which you explain about dharmi, dharma. Dharmi is the object and dharma is illusory. It does not exist. Okay, that means if there is no attribute, the object is also nothing, isn't it? Did you get my point? How can you visualize an object without an attribute? I don't know whether I'm able to express myself properly.
No, that is what the opponents attack Advaita about, right? Vishishta Advaita and other systems attack Advaita, saying that if you're saying something is nirdharmaka means there is no attribute, then such an object cannot exist, because if you know that such an object exists, right, then that means that has some characteristics that will become sadharmaka. So people attack Advaita over it, but Advaita, what it says is, it is only a witness. That is, the true object is Nirguna Brahman. That is purely a witness. It has no dharmas whatsoever. And that is in this illusory world, in this world of duality, you will never understand this. You have to go beyond duality to understand that there is one vastu which is only existent, and it is nirguna. That is their view.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. That's what I understood. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the thing is, for the second question, what Prashantji asked, why is Advaita and Buddhism exactly opposite to each other? Yeah, Buddhism has more views, but we have taken one view of Buddhism, which is Shunyavada. Shunyavada is, they do not agree with Dharma or Dharmi in Shunyavada, right? Because nothing is definable in Shunyavada. But in one of the Buddhist views, Dharmi, Dharmi does not exist, but dharmas only exist. That is a common view in Buddhism. Only dharmas exist, or phenomena or experience exists, because experience, it has the view of richness, poorness. Experience will is hot or cold, or something pleasing or unpleasant. These are all experiences which you cannot deny. That's what Buddhists say. They take that to be real, and dharmi, or the real object, does not exist. Because he says that once you know that the real object does not exist, all attachments will go away. And that is the real truth. And nirvana is the experience of Buddha, and says nirvana, there is no question of attachment or desires. It's a state of desirelessness. And that's where everything is denied. So that's where, but on the Buddhism, what they say is, you need a basis for all experiences. And that basis, or the fundamental substratum on which all illusory experiences are superimposed, that should exist. So experiences should have a substratum, and that substratum is Atman. That's what they say. Or Brahman, Atman is the same partner. Do you understand why they say it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. Any other questions? Okay, we will leave this here. I wanted to go word by word, and I thought that there is no real use of it. It's going, back and forth, back and forth. We have already talked about it in the last class, in the 13th class. So that's why I did not go further. And as you know, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, we deviated to some other, some other issues, like Upadanatva and several other issues we were dealing with. Now, okay, we'll take the next shloka and try to understand what this means. Tachunyatve tasya vrittihi kathamiva gadate tadvishishte tu vrittau swadharatva prasangas tataiha na guno napi dharmi ityayuktam tadvrittir dharmi matre na bhavati tataha eva asya tachunyatato noktau dosho swadhi vag vihatihi itaratha tadvadanye jalpaha. So here we'll go a little bit word by word and we'll figure it out what it is. Dharma dharmino bhede vrityanupapattischa ashankya nirakaroti tachunyatvadina. See here, adhara adheya bhava he is trying to say. Say we say nilo ghataha, black pot. Ityado vishishta. So we have a combination of, we know that the pot is also there, and we know that it's a black pot. So we always see it as together. Then a question may come up. This whole idea is a Buddhist Purvapaksha. That is, the Purvapakshan questions this whole idea of adhara adheya. What is the basis or substratum? What is that which is being supported in the substratum? We say that the blackness is there in the ghata, or the ghata is a substance which is the adhara, and blackness is adheya, that which inheres in the ghata. That's how we say, but they don't accept it. Their logic against this whole thing is nilo ghataha. We say, so does the blackness existing, does it exist in a pot which is not black, or does it exist in a pot which is black? This is the question they ask. The reason why they ask this question is they want to deny both. They want to say that such a relationship is erroneous. Blackness cannot be there in a pot which is not black. That's obviously wrong. So it is like asking cowness. Does it exist in an animal which is not a cow? Or does it exist in an animal which is a cow? Obviously, cowness does not exist in a horse. So obviously, cowness cannot exist in an animal which is not a cow. So the thing is, then if they force this view, oh, then cowness exists in an animal which is already what do you call a cow. That means it has cowness, and cowness exists inside cowness. So the cowness becomes both the adhara, cowness becomes also the adheya, the one which is supported and the supporter, both becomes cowness. That is wrong. This is, how can you accept that? One cannot be the adhara for itself. One cannot support itself. All you have to say is that exists, that's it. It cannot support itself. So this is their argument against adhara adheya bhava. This is.
Can you repeat that? I don't think I quite got it.
Okay. See, what the first question the Buddhists ask is, does the cowness exist in an animal which is not a cow, or in an animal which is a cow? Do you understand this question?
Yes.
So cowness does not exist in a dog, which is an animal which is different from a cow, right?
Yes.
So the first option as does cowness exist in an animal which is not a cow is obviously ruled out, right?
Right.
So there's only one choice. The one choice is cowness exists in an animal which has cowness.
Okay.
Then what happens is, then why are you supporting? So then you're now they are attacking the adhara adheya bhava. Adhara adheya means something is supporting, that is the one which supports and one which is supported. This relationship itself is wrong because cowness cannot be supported by cowness. Cowness has to be just cowness. There is no need for support or what is supported and what is supporting. That relationship does not exist. That's what they say. So they completely deny adhara adheya bhava.
Again, in the first question itself, they are accepting there is another object, isn't it?
First question la appadina.
First question la vandu cow thottu vera oru animal la and cowness irkan kekkumbode and innoru animal irukன்றத ஒத்துண்டு தான் அந்த கேள்வி கேட்க முடியும்.
ஆமா.
அப்ப ஆப்ஜெக்ட் இருக்குன்னு அவ ஒத்துண்டு தான் அந்த கேள்வி கேட்க முடியும்.
அவ என்ன சொல்றா, அந்த ஆப்ஜெக்ட் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் தான் சொல்றாவா.
Okay.
See, for them all objects are experiences. In the Buddhist view enna, if I touch a hot flame and then I get burned or I get the feeling that my fingers are burning or something like that, all they say is, oh, you have the experience of burning. The object is some mental superimposition for them. So all you know is the experience only. Your eyes say that it saw something which is bright and burning. But that is just an experience your eyes said. So everything is the eye oriented there. That is, oh, you perceive this. But it is not, the object doesn't exist. But it's a superimposition, or your mind thinks that the object exists. The problem is with your mind, not with the external world. The world pretty much does not exist. If it exists, it depends on something else. It depends on something else. At the end, it always is depending on something else, and there is no end to it. That is why there is nothing which has got its own value or intrinsic value. So the whole view is experience or anubhava or phenomena. Phenomena is experience. That is true, but not the objects. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Hard to digest. You got to think a little bit. But these are all some erroneous views which have popped up. So we are trying to attack those erroneous views that they're not true. That's all. Okay? Now the second question is, so the cowness has to exist in an object which is already a cow which has cowness. That means it is irrelevant, repetition, and such a relationship is denied. So what Vedanta Deshika here says is, Swabhag, so the thing is, this Adhara Adheya Bhava cannot be denied. That's what he says. Because these questions are not practical. You see a pot which is black, you see a pot which is blue. So yeah, there is a difference. And we separate out and say, yeah, the blackness is supported by the object pot. The blueness is supported by the object which is pot. So this, whether it is Dharma Dharmi Bhava or whether it is Adhara Adheya Bhava, we have to agree because that is practical. Question comes, what happens to Dharma Dharmi Bhava in terms of Jivatma or Paramatma? That is a separate question. We'll come to that in the Jivasara and the Nayakasara. We will come back to this again because we will have to become more clear. The reason is I looked at this a little bit. It's just that it is repeating the same old thing and it's not doing anything beyond it. That is why I didn't want to go through the line by line here.
But I'm unable to understand the Samadhanam in a logical way. Could you please explain that?
The Samadhanam, right?
Samadhanam eppadi logically Desikar solrandradhu enakku puriyalanga.
Okay, let's talk about it. See, the thing is, what Vedanta Deshikar say is, the very two questions you are asking are wrong. That's what Vedanta Deshikar says. That means the object which is characterized by a dharma, which is only visible to us. The question of what do you call a black pot, does blackness exist inside a black pot or the pot which is not black? That question does not arise at all. What Vedanta Deshika says, because that is Vag vritti only.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, you said something and then stopped. So
No. Okay. See, what it is these are options which are only word oriented. Jalpaha, that means Vagvilasaha. That means you're just talking about it without any real value. That's what Vedanta says. That is, if a cow comes, the cow is characterized by cowness, and the cowness has to reside in a particular object, and that has to be cow. So there is an obvious adhara adheya bhava, that is supporter and supported. The cowness has to be supported in an object. It is also it's an attribute of an object also. So you see, based on certain aspects, that is, the animal is moving, the animal is giving milk, the animal looks like a shape of the animal looks like a cow. Based on those attributes, you determine that is a cow, right? The cowness doesn't exist in an animal which is not a cow, and the cowness also does not exist in a animal which is a cow. These two options are not acceptable at all. It's just talk. What Vedanta is saying is, cowness exists in an animal, and that's what makes it a cow, and that's how you recognize a cow. It is, one is avinabhava. The moment you say that this is a cow, that has an attribute of cowness, and also that is also the basis which supports the cowness. So the question of both options, what the Buddhists ask, does the cowness exist in an animal which is not a cow, or does the cowness exist in an animal which is already a cow? These two options don't exist, because that is why in the previous shloka we say swapara nirvahaka. The cowness itself separates the object from the class and all other objects. So the moment you see the characteristics of the cow, you already know that is a cow, and that is an entity. It is swapara nirvahaka. That means it does not need another cowness to determine what that cowness is. Do you understand?
Yeah, yeah.
See, here it becomes a little bit, see, the very fact you were able to recognize an object as a cow is because it had characteristics of movement, shape, and things like that. Then comes the question of, suppose, how does a child understand a cow? Child has never seen a cow, for example. The child is like 1 year old, born in New York City, where you cannot see a cow. And the 1 year old kid goes to some farm somewhere in northern, New York or something. And then suddenly the child sees a cow. Does it recognize that it's a cow? No, but it is taught by mother or somebody saying that this animal is a cow. The second time he sees an object similar to a cow, they say, oh, that is a cow. So the first object, then the question comes, is the first time you see an object, is it nirdharmaka? That means it does not have any attributes. What Vedanta says is we deny it. Even the very first time an object is seen, it is only seen as a saguna sadharmaka vastu. That means it has got attributes and it is an entity. But first time you see a cow, if you have never seen a cow, you will not be able to communicate and say that this is a cow. But still, you may feel that, oh, this is an animal because it's moving. You may You may feel that, oh yeah, it has got this kind of a shape and all those things. You may not know that is a cow. But the cow, samjna or name, is given to a class only when people accept that that is a class. So the question is, dharma dharmi bhava cannot be denied. Neither can you deny that the dharmas in her are supported by the dharmi. The cowness is supported by that particular individual. So this kind of questions are logical, oxymorons. We just throw in and say this doesn't mean anything, because all our experiences are based on reality. And based on reality, we see a cow, we know what it does, it gives milk. We don't want to go into and try to get milk out of a snake. So in reality, we know that there is an object, there is a value to it, there is a use to it, and there are attributes to it. And the attributes inherent in the substance, and they are supported by the substance. And that is also experience-wise clear. So we are talking about the same phenomenon they are talking about. We see the experience, and we see the object different from the attributes. That's all. That is a part of experience. It's more like see, I looked at all this, what do you call, thing. It becomes too tarka-oriented. And it goes on and on and on and on. I checked with it and I felt it, we should come back to this later. When there is a real problem in guna-guni bhava, when it comes to jivatma, jivatma's gunas, or paramatma, paramatma's gunas, we should come back to this. That is my idea. Or we will come back again if I find some value to it next time. That's my idea. Okay. Now we'll go to a different subject, Chaturvimshati Tattva Nirupana. So what are these 24 tattvas? Do we agree with these tattvas? And do we know that these tattvas, how do we understand that there are 24 tattvas? Why did the scientists not come out and say there are like 24 tattvas? So these are some problems. And only because our Siddhanta, which is Vaidika Siddhanta, talks about 24 tattvas. And even the Sankhyas were the first people who numbered this whole thing as 24 tattvas. So that's what is the subject of this next shloka 11. Next time what I will do is I'll do some more research and say if I can simplify the logic, the tarka language of the last two verses, we can come back to it if I find something is very, very interesting and very of high value. Is that all right?
Yeah. Yes.
Because now I don't think it has high value at this point. That's why. Okay. Svachandena agamena prakriti mahadahankara matra akshasiddhihi na nadhyakshena apratitehe na punar anumaya vyaptilingad siddhehe satvadyunmesha bhinnan mahata iti tatha syad ahankara vedah प्राच्यादक्षाणि मात्राः स्वजनयति प्रजनयति परो मध्यमस्तु उभयार्थः. Here, this is a starting of evam dravya adravya vivagam prasadya. See, this is where our big problem was. See, dravya and adravya was the first thing what we did. If you remember a long time back, we everything was separated into dravya and adravya. Do you remember the chart? Long time back we showed?
Yes, yes.
What is adravya there? Do you remember what is the main idea of adravya there?
Attributes. They said
Exactly.
it was 10 different types: sattvam, rajas, tamas, etc.
Exactly. So the thing is, they are attributes and they inhere in the dravya. Dravya and dravyashrita, we said. That means the adravya, the not dravyas, inhere in the dravya. That is, they are dravyashritas, means that they are supported by dravyas. They exist in dravyas. Like Shakti, energy exists in an object. So sattva, rajas, tamo gunas exist in a particular object with some prakriti. So the adravya exists in dravya. Why is this dravya adravya vibhaga? We separated out saying that look, these are different characteristics, and they are separate from each other, and that is why we separated out as dravya and adravya. Okay. What is the whole purpose of understanding all this jada? Nature of jada, what is the purpose? Anybody, can they remember? We talk about jada. Everything we are talking about is about how creation occurs. Creation is from prakriti and all those things. From the very beginning, some creation happened. What is the value of understanding all these things?
So that we know that the Atma is different and that it's not, I mean, and so getting to moksha and getting vairagyam and getting to moksha is important. The reason for doing that is seen clearly.
Correct. So we need to know the nature of bondage. And the nature of bondage occurs due to sattva, rajas, tamo gunas of the prakriti. And that is why we are stuck, because we are not stuck with ropes. Nobody has tied us up with ropes, but we are tied by attachments. And these attachments are due to sattva, rajas, tamo gunas of the prakriti. And we need to understand the nature of the bondage. If you don't understand the nature of bondage, how do you get out of bondage? This is why it is extremely important, and so did the Sankhya people, Yoga people, and Vaisheshika people, Nyaya people. They all looked at this with that view. This may be very different from viewing it like scientifically. If you view it scientifically, you look into how many elements are there? Are there 200 elements, or how many elements are there? So how many compounds are there? What are proteins? So you, from scientifically view it in a different way. Why would you view it in that way scientifically? Any thoughts?
Because science is only concerned with what can be perceived by the senses. So it goes deeper and deeper and deeper into Prakriti and trying to find more about Prakriti. But
No. One more thing. What is the prayojana in science? What is the value the scientists are looking for?
For living a long life, maybe finding the problems.
More like controlling nature and Prakriti.
Exactly, using nature for profits. If I know that I can find a particular element called lithium, and if I I understand lithium-ion batteries, that means I can give the power to my toys which I create, and by giving power, all my products will be sold, and you can use it, right? So they're looking at more like using elements for a particular value, out of which they can make money or some comforts they can get out of life, right? But here, the philosophical view is to find out why I am unhappy, why I am stuck. That is why the philosophical view is very different, and that is why they are doing this 24 tattvas. Why is the 24 tattvas important? The view of those 24 tattvas, looking at it, is to find out the true problem of bondage. Why am I unhappy? Why I get unhappy? Why I get angry? Why I get to a state of hopelessness? This is very fundamental. Okay. Prasadya, dravya nirupanam upachikramishuhu Prathamam Prakriti-dravye pramana-jignasayam Sankhyastu Samanyatastu Drishtad atindriyanam pratitiranumanaat iti atindriyanam samanyato drishta anumanat prakrityadini sadhayanti. This is very important. The Sankhya people, what is Prakriti? First, let us understand Prakriti. Prakriti is not matter as we think about. Prakriti is the Mula Prakriti. Mula Prakriti is the original cause of all matter. That's a fundamental matter. I wish I had that particular chart we were talking about, right? Let me look if I can find that chart. Yeah, let me try to expand this a little bit. See, can you see it properly?
Yes.
Here, if you look at it, in this whole set of dravya, dravya we come to it later. In the dravya, the jada is only two, Prakriti and Kala. So this Prakriti itself contains a lot of things inside it. This Prakriti, Mula Prakriti, this is again broken into, this itself is broken into 24 different items. And the 25th is, well, Kala is just separated out here. The 25th is Jiva and 26th is Ishvara. This is how our system of philosophy talks about, right? So this Prakriti is broken into 24. How is it broken into 24? I wish I had I don't think I have the next thing which breaks Prakriti into 24. We can talk about it. Prakriti is broken into.
It's easy. The Kavarga is the Pancha Mahabhutas.
Pancha Mahabhutas, right?
Yeah.
And then
five karmendriya, five
Chavarga is the 5 karmendriyas. Tavarga is the jnanendriyas. Tavarga is the tanmatras. And then Pa is Pa Bha Ma. That's like Pa's manas mana
buddhi ahankara, mano buddhi ahankara, right? There.
It's not, I don't know if it's buddhi. It's manasa ahankara, mahat, and prakriti itself.
Okay, mahat ahankara prakriti, right?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. So we can panchachendriya gocharaha, that means 5 objects of senses, totally 10 senses, because karmendriya and jnanendriya there is 10. 10 plus 5 is with 5 objects of senses. That means we can accommodate here 15. So manas is the 11th indriya. Now we have 16, right?
They're saying that
I'm sorry. We already have
5 tanmatras will make it 20.
Yeah, okay, correct. 5 tanmatras will make it 20. No, the 21 is manas.
Yeah.
And then
22
ahankara,
is ahankara, 23 is mahat, and 24 is prakriti itself.
Tamas or prakriti or tamas, some people say tamas, so prakriti itself. See, we have to come with 24, right? So
yeah.
there is a mahat.
Manas going from the gross to the subtle. Manas, ahankara, mahat, and prakriti.
Mahat and prakriti, correct. Mahat, ahankara, okay, these are the 4. So the first one is Prakriti there, right? That is the Mula Prakriti, right?
Yeah. So Ma is the Jivatma, which is the subtlest of all. Then Bha is Prakriti. Ba is,
Ma is outside the 24, right? Ma is
yeah,
not included
yes.
in 24.
I'm just going with the Vargiya Vyanjanani.
Okay, got it. So the thing is now the problem what the Sankhya people are saying is, from Anumana, we can understand what Prakriti is, Mula Prakriti is. That means we will determine Mula Prakriti through Anumana. Anumana is inference. What is inference? Suppose you see smoke, then you infer that even if you didn't see the fire, you say that there was a fire, there is a fire there, otherwise smoke wouldn't have come. So looking at the objects in this world, like the earth, water, wind, fire, and all those things, they infer that they all came from Mula Prakriti. That is the, what is it? That is the view of the Sankhya people. What Vedanta Deshika says is that is not a correct view. Because you don't see it. You have to determine it using the words of the Vedas. Vedas are the pramana there for the tanmatras, and even earlier than tanmatras. You cannot experience the tanmatras. That is rasa tanmatra, rupa tanmatra. All these tanmatras are very, very subtle elements. They cannot be seen, and you cannot infer it because you don't have a good model to infer it. That is the idea.
Also, do they even exist in Vyashti Srishti? They probably don't exist in Vyashti Srishti, right?
This is where Vedanta says only Shruti can tell you in Vyashti Srishti what is there, in Samashti Srishti what is there. Right? Vyashti is individualized and separated and variegated, and Samashti is combined. In combined, Jivatmas are all combined in one. And then in the combined, Ahankara is the one element, Indriyas are separate elements. So the Samashti Srishti occurred earlier, and then Vyashti Srishti occurred later. So that is known through Vedas. So all these things are not understandable unless you refer to Vedas. That is the fundamental argument from Vedantishka's perspective. Of course, Advaita may differ a little bit here and there. Advaita also refers to Sankhya. So Sankhya Saugata, right? Advaita has got a combination of Sankhya and Saugata Buddhism and Sankhya's philosophies, some basic things they agree with. Now, coming back to unfortunately, I have to take a break today. I have an exact at 7:02. I have to go out. Can we take this tomorrow?
It's actually I'm late for my next class anyway. Yeah.
So tomorrow we will continue with this. We'll go into much detail, and if there is any details I have left out in the last portion, I will come back to it. Okay. With this, we'll start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.